Hello, friends. I hope you are doing well. It is Chelsea Colley here, empowerment specialist, speaker, and author. I am happy to be back and recording number 2 with you. How's that? And plug this guy in. Hold on here a second. Okay, got it. All right, well, I hope everybody is doing well. It is February 28th, 2022, last day of February already. Craziness, craziness. Okay, so I'm going to read part 2 of 107's Kid by the Side of the Road. We are starting on page 6. This is a very interesting conversation. This is a very interesting read. And the part today, the part that I shared in the last video that is just so crazy is that, like, I knew it, but they said the Constitution does not allow for anyone else except for our country to handle our money. So what? Our money is illegal right now. Our money is illegal because it is not legal or lawful according to our Constitution. Do you understand that? That's why this has to go through. That's why NESARA has to go through, because everything they're doing is still illegal. And just remember, IRS, Federal Reserve are not part of our government. They literally say that taxes are voluntary. That's not the impression that we get. I mean, we go to jail if we don't pay our taxes, right? So they have us all duped. Like, the American people need to know that our Constitution requires that our own country's organization handle our money. And it's not. Actually, it is now that it's rolled into the US Treasury, but we're still paying interest to the cabal, right? So all Abraham Lincoln did was set up interest-free money. All JFK wanted to do was set up interest-free money. It's within our rights as citizens to have interest-free money backed by something physical, which our money is not backed by anything. The fiat currency needs to fall. So I'm going to read into this, and this will get very interesting, especially when they start talking about Executive Order 11110. So starting at the top of page 7, when Kennedy came into office, he was fighting these monsters who were literally destroying the United States. They created wars and pushed us into all kinds of other efforts we didn't want to take on. And that's because they always manipulated us in their pursuit of making money from us, constantly keeping us in whatever battles they would like, using our citizens and the American military against other lands. They instigate and push wars all over the planet with the use of Americans and our military might, as if we're a branch office of their secret service spy agencies around the world. After the Bay of Pigs and various other events that President Kennedy either dealt with or witnessed, he came up with a solution. On June 4th of 1963, 6463, he signed Executive Order 11110. It's 11110, which is an interesting number because World War I ended in the 11th month on the 11th day at the 11th hour of the day. That is precisely when those in control stopped the war. Why? It's because of the numerology. 111111 is symbolic for them. President Kennedy being knowledgeable about their codes and numbers, sent them a little coded message with 11s. It said, "Hey, we're going to stop your wars." It said, quote, "Hey, we're going to stop your wars," end quote. It was Kennedy's answer to World War I and World War II, as well as a message for those trying to get us into a World War III. And running our country's finances, that executive order gave President Kennedy the legal authority to create money that was interest and debt free. This is the key to our success. Money that's interest and debt free. Very simple. We're entitled to it according to our Constitution. We've never had it. Just baffling to me. So it was Kennedy's answer to World War I and World War II, as well as a message for those trying to get us into a World War III. And running our country's finances, that executive order gave President Kennedy the legal authority to create money that was interest and debt free, currency belonging only to the American people. It was just what Lincoln had done with his greenbacks. Kennedy had these notes printed. They were printing them. And they said, I'll show you a picture of them. It says silver, something on the top of them, because they're backed with silver. Kennedy had those notes printed, blatantly ignoring the Federal Reserve notes from the private banks. Even today, many Americans don't understand that the Federal Reserve and the Internal Revenue Service, the IRS, are no more federal than Federal Express. They are administered by federal employees, but the organizations themselves are not federal. That was my little ad. They are administered by federal employees, but as the US courts have shown, the IRS is a Puerto Rican corporation. And of course, there is nothing in the Federal Registry identifying an income tax, which is because it's voluntary. There is nothing in the Federal Registry identifying an income tax because it is voluntary. Come again, say what? It's voluntary to pay taxes? How come no one told us? I wonder. Each year, we Americans voluntarily assess for ourselves a certain amount we supposedly owe. Of course, at the end of the day, it's enforced using the statutes regarding liquor, tobacco, and firearms. Using the statutes, it is, okay, so it is enforced using the statutes regarding liquor, tobacco, and firearms, just as though it is a mandatory tax. And the courts, as well as the rest of our legal system, have gone along with it. In fact, months before 9/11 happened in 2001, Congress had scheduled hearings for October of 2001 to look into the legality of the IRS and the way laws surrounding it have been enforced. But those hearings never happened because of 9/11. So they're saying there were going to be scheduled hearings in Congress for October of 2001 to look into the legality of the IRS. And it didn't happen because of 9/11. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? Kind of like it's similar to what's happening now. Coco is just an excuse for people not to do their jobs. So there was also a movie that came out. I don't know the name of the movie. I don't remember what it was, but I know some people have watched it here. It was a really good documentary. And this guy literally seeks things out and he takes them to court and just challenges them. Tell me where in the Constitution does it say that that citizens will have to pay income tax? It's not in the Constitution. It's not allowed for in the Constitution. That's why they changed it. And that's why they turned us into a corporation. So repeatedly over time, we've had incidents occur. And by the way, I don't know when that movie came out, but it was about that time. And I think that guy died mysteriously. Probably before it went to court here. I don't know. I'd have to look into that. If I do find out the name of that documentary, I'll get back to you on that and tell you what to watch, because I'm pretty sure they killed him and hid the evidence, but I think that documentary is still floating around somewhere. So repeatedly over time, but if you know what it is, put it in the comments. So repeatedly over time, we've had incidents occur that changed the course of the country, and April seems to be an appealing month for their events. They kind of enjoy making these things happen in April. Why is that? Well, most of us probably don't realize that the Gregorian, Julian, and other calendars that have been put forth over time for us to use are not the same calendar used by those people who we are engaged against. These royal and banking families actually go by the Babylonian calendar, and with that, by their marking of time, the beginning of the new millennium for this Babylonian group, a 1,000-year period of the new world they want to see created, occurred in the spring of 2012. We're just ending the 7th year and beginning the 8th of the new millennium for these Babylonians. And this was written in 2020, so we would have been ending the 7th year in 2020. And then 2021 would have been the 8th year. And then 2022 would be the 9th year. And then we start over. So these years, I'll stop here for a minute and explain this because this is pretty fascinating. If you don't know, we go through a 9-year period. And I heard this, I learned this from someone who teaches numerology, and I connected with her in Amsterdam. We go through these 9-year cycles, and then the 9 is kind of like the finishing of something, and then the 1 is like the new beginning. And just to let you know, 2023 is a new beginning, and that's going to be a 1 year. So he's telling you that 2020 was ending the 7th year. He says, we are just ending the 7th year and beginning the 8th of the new millennium. So yeah, the 8th would have been, is this 2020? This is written in 2020. It says we are just ending the 7th year and beginning the 8th. Okay, so actually, this is the 2020 version, and this came out in 2020, and this is the 8th. So this is a 1 year. So the 8th year would have been 2020, the 9th year would have been 2021, and 2022, this is a year 1, just for your information. So back to that Executive Order 11110. Kennedy kind of did that as a little signal to those deep state players because he knows that they like numbers, and he was into numbers too. And so he created this executive order on 11/11, 11110, this executive order. And this video I found interesting because when you look up executive order, you get all these sites that give a twisted view. There's a lot of things that are really hidden. So, you know, people are asking, oh, I wonder why other presidents removed Executive Order 1111 or 11110. And I don't remember who it was. I don't remember who it was right now. Maybe Reagan. But duh. I mean, you don't have to have a brain, much of a brain, to just figure out, of course, you know, they killed him after this. Okay, so he wrote this executive order, JFK wrote this executive order on June 6th, June 4th, 63. So 6463. He wrote this executive order on June 4th, 63. Well, when did they kill him? 11/22/63. So they almost threw it in his face a little bit because he wrote the executive order 11/11. So they went ahead and killed him on 11/22. Probably just to throw it back in his face a little bit, you know, to have fun with the numbers like they do. These people are horrible. So yeah, we could have got this back in 2001, but they messed that up too. So that's why we can't mess it up this time. But this actually asks the question, is Executive Order 11110 the reason JFK got assassinated? Just asking questions here.
Now, on June 4th, 1963, President John F. Kennedy signed Executive Order 11110, which authorized the U.S. Treasury to start printing a new form of the silver certificate called the United States Note. John F. Kennedy issued $4 billion worth of this new cash money, free of debt, free of interest, and it was enough money to allow the nation to conduct its business without needing to involve the private Federal Reserve Bank. Only 5 months later, John F. Kennedy was shot by the crazed lone nut, Lee Harvey Oswald. I didn't shoot anybody, sir. I haven't been told what I'm here for. Floor of the Dallas City Hall, and that's what Oswald has been shot. And as soon as Kennedy was buried, the United States notes were pulled out of circulation and destroyed, except for samples in the hands of collectors. Now, when I first proposed this linkage between the monetary system and the assassination of our world leaders, I got an email saying, well, that's nonsense. How do you know it wasn't Cuba or the Russians or whatever else? And I'll be the first to admit there were overlapping agendas. There were a lot of people who wanted Kennedy dead for a lot of different reasons, but if there is no link to his U.S. notes, then why was John J. McCloy, former president of the World Bank, former president of the Chase Manhattan Bank, appointed to the Warren Commission? I don't care what kind of a man McCloy was. He is not a homicide investigator, and the Warren Commission was supposed to be investigating the assassination of the President of the United States. What is a bank president doing on the Warren Commission if there is no connection?
That's a very interesting little question there. Very interesting point. Apparently, it was a farce. The investigation was basically conducted by the bad people, just like the 9/11 commission or whatever it was called to investigate 9/11. It was like run by these corrupt people that we don't trust. So it's disgusting. Honestly, I thought our country was a lot better than this. Once you realize what they've done to the American people, it's sickening, really. You think they actually killed our president and then blamed it on this random guy, Harvey Lee Oswald, and then he gets killed in a crowd. Like there's like a shuffle and apparently Harvey Lee Oswald is shot. I didn't even know that, but that's just even extra suspicious. And then they make an investigation out of it and they put someone in charge of the World Bank, like the president of the World Bank, on the Warren Commission to investigate JFK's death. It's just suspicious. It's really fishy, really fishy. I will just read a little bit more, just to give you a little bit more to go on. But I just thought that was really interesting, and I just think it's really sad that we are entitled to interest-free currency, and we've never had it. So yeah, an 8 is their number of the new day. It is the number of Horus, or the rising sun, having to do with the pagan festival of Ishtar, which is Easter. To them, 2020 is just beginning year 8, the new day, and they wanted to get off to a good start. So yeah, 2020 was 8, 2021 was 9, 2022 is year 1. So this is a fresh start year, y'all. I would contend that this COVID-19 crisis we've been subject to here in the spring of 2020 was sort of a blood sacrifice to their gods that they intended for the beginning of their new millennium, having it begin bathed in blood. Now, when we look back in history, this book is so freaking big, it's like a newspaper. At events that have occurred during this time of year, there is another that stands out. It was kind of the 9/11 of its era. People in the know behind the scenes understood exactly what the significance truly was, but they weren't heard. That monumental event was the sinking of the Titanic on April 14th, 1912, in the calm waters of ice-cold North Atlantic. 100 years before the end of another Babylonian millennium, the Titanic sailed at maximum speed across that ocean in a pitch black, star-filled, moonless night into a known field of icebergs. There have been numerous radio reports concerning the location of those many drifted masses of glacial ice. At that time, radio communications were done ship to ship and port to port by telegraph. Unreleased and unknown to the public in those days was the capability to triangulate a ship's relative position using radio signal strength from their positions nearby. Other ships which were stopped for the night, including, by some reports, a rudimentary early submarine, had been tracking the location of icebergs in the area. Some contend that the icebergs fields location information was being conveyed to the captain of the Titanic. He was responsible for precisely aiming the Titanic at the center of the field of icebergs during those very dark midnight hours. Did he maybe have a deal lined up somehow to get off the boat after? Was that promise not honored? We don't know. What was going on with the whole setup? Why were all of these pieces put into motion? It was because the Titanic was never intended to make the crossing intact. It had to go down. For their Babylonian ritual, it was to be a death ship from the day it was put on the drawing boards, actually designing it that way for a purpose. But who would plan such a dastardly event? How could anything so monstrous and monumental actually be prepared and accomplished? And what would be the point? All right, so I guess we'll go ahead and end there on page 10. And we will leave off at the point where it says, at that time in 1911, that way we can remember where we're at. So we understand, they punished Lincoln, assassinated him, punished him for making the greenbacks, messed that up again, killed Kennedy because he was going to have an interest-free currency, and it was already in print when he died. They stopped printing it as soon as he died. In between that time, there was the purposeful sinking of the Titanic. which was also a Babylonian death ritual, like something we're experiencing similarly today. And then you've got the Built to Sink. You ever heard of that book, Built to Last? No, the Titanic was built to sink. They designed it that way. And same thing with the Twin Towers, y'all. They designed those towers to fall. I don't know if they designed it to fall, but they had this planned all along. Way back in the day, when they predicted the Twin Towers, this was all planned. Such a bummer, huh? All right, well, we'll end it there, and we'll just, we'll say a little clearing. We'll say, dear God, Jesus, Yeshua, please be with us during this time. Help us to continue to learn and grow and keep an open mind and just keep digging into our true history and the facts that have been covered. In Jesus Christ's name we pray, amen.